You're ready, I'll jump in.
All
Okay.
set.
Oops. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to spend about an hour or so here with us today to listen to this presentation on Artlook. I'm really thrilled that we are joined today by Courtney Cintron, who is from Artlook. She's actually from Parliament, which is a Chicago-based company that's the creator of the Artlook platform, and also joined by my colleague Jacqueline Ruiz, who is also working extensively on this Artlook program. So as you're going to learn today, we've done a major redesign of Artlook, and we think it's one that's going to better serve our community of arts organizations and our teaching artists. This Artlook is really tailored to you. It'll help you share the powerful and the diverse work you do to a wider community of not only schools and school districts, but also libraries, community centers, and all kinds of facilities offering after-school summer programs. So we think it'll be useful for our community of teaching artists. I just want to put one little reminder here today that this is not a directory for performances. It's not a directory to introduce your artist to a general audience. Those things are needed, but that's not the purpose of this. This is really only for those who offer programs for youth, which is preschool through high school. And I want to make sure that everybody's in the right room here today and you're interested in a artist directory for teaching. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Courtney, and Courtney's going to introduce the program. So thanks.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you for having me here today. Once again, my name is Courtney Cintron. I use she, her pronouns. And yes, I'm joining you from Parliament in Chicago. It's still cold here. But we're the team behind Artlook, and we're bringing it to districts and communities across the country. It's really exciting to be here with you and relaunching Artlook and working with you all as you prepare to use Artlook as a powerful tool to better understand, strengthen, and grow your arts education network here in Sacramento. So thank you. I'm just going to let one other person in. So here's a little look at what we're going to be covering today. We'll briefly talk about why Artlook is relaunching in Sacramento. And for those of you that are entirely new to Artlook, we'll also be covering what the platform is and does, also in this new context. Then we'll be getting into the details on how you can apply for Artlook. So that's the primary content for today. We'll also discuss some considerations for your applications and what makes a strong application. And then we'll talk a little bit about what approvals and next steps look like. And although we won't cover it today, I'll direct you to a section in the deck that we're utilizing today where you can find information on how to set up your Artlook profiles once you're indeed approved. And finally, we'll close out with a short Q&A. So if you have questions along the way, be sure to jot those down somewhere or drop them in the chat, and we'll come back to those at the end. So do save those questions. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. So the question everyone wants to know is likely, why is Artlook Sacramento relaunching? So to start, we're refreshing the platform as a more current, useful resource for Sacramento's arts education ecosystem. So the platform first launched in Sacramento in, I believe, 2021, amidst the context of the pandemic, which was a challenging time given the many priorities and how quickly things evolved during that time. So part of this launch is also about refreshing the platform to make sense in the now. We also wanted to ensure fuller participation from arts organizations and teaching artists via an application process. So re-engaging past participants while welcoming new organizations and teaching artists into the network. So part of this means helping you all, the arts education partner community or arts providers, better understand the value of the platform and what it means for you, and providing you with more guidelines on how to maximize it for your purposes. So one person. Also reducing the burden on schools while re-emphasizing the platform as a public directory for discovering arts providers. So in this new iteration of the platform, you'll note that there are no longer any school profiles within the directory. And this is in an effort to reduce any kind of administrative burden for teachers in schools and for them to see the platform as less of a barrier, but more easy to access directory of arts providers. So the platform will be elevated to schools as a tool for searching and contacting arts providers, but they won't have profiles that they have to maintain. And then we have creating a more dynamic creating more dynamic media rich profiles that better showcase your programs and opportunities. So we also wanted to bring your programs to life with more media rich options, including videos and images that really tell the story of your missions, of your programs. And ideally, this supports teachers in better visualizing and understanding your programs. And then fostering stronger opportunities for teaching artists with both schools and arts organizations through integrated teaching artist profiles. So if you were formerly on Artlook, you'll also find that we have added a new profile type for teaching artists specifically onto the platform, which we'll get into a little bit more later. But this really opens up the door for new, more direct connection opportunities between teaching artists and arts organizations, as well as teaching artists and schools, and really emphasizes and highlights the skills and experiences of teaching artists within the profiles. So that's just a little bit of a short look at why we're deciding to relaunch Artlook Sacramento at this time. Okay, so for those of you that are new to Artlook, I'll spend a little bit of time now talking about what Artlook is. So at its most fundamental level, Artlook is a searchable directory of profiles that provides information on arts and cultural organizations and independent teaching artists. It allows schools and youth-focused community sites to find programs in a wide range of artistic disciplines. It also allows arts organizations and independent teaching artists to share their offerings with schools, community sites, and the general public. They can also find one another on the site as well. And then all registered users can share professional development opportunities to support the highest level of programs for youth in Sacramento. And then to translate this a little bit more directly into how Artlook benefits you as arts providers, through Artlook, you'll be able to elevate your programs to schools and community groups, helping them recognize the diverse contributions of teaching artists and arts organizations in your community. And your profiles will provide a place to showcase your programs and offerings with clear descriptions, videos, and images. You'll also be able to track your impact and demonstrate the value of arts education to stakeholders and funders. So your profiles will be a place to track programs and partnerships year over year. Arts organization profiles will also include an impact report that provides an overview on the schools you serve and the programs that you provide. And these are easy elements to elevate to funders and arts education advocates. And then strengthen network relationships between teaching artists, arts organizations, and schools. Teaching artists and arts organizations will have contact information listed on their profiles, making it easy to connect with one another and making it easy for schools to find and connect with you as well, ultimately strengthening collaborations and partnerships across the sector. And then support workforce and development by creating clear pathways for teaching artists engagement and employment with arts organizations. So this is a new element once again. With the new dedicated teaching artist profiles, teaching artists will be able to showcase their skills and experiences to schools, arts organizations, youth-serving community groups, and other teaching artists, strengthening supports and visibility for the Teaching Artists Network in Sacramento. So there are many direct benefits for providers on Artlook, but the larger goal and mission in this work is really about collectively expanding arts and cultural opportunities for the youth of Sacramento while elevating arts providers as essential partners in making that possible. So I'm just going to take a moment now to briefly just give you a little bit of an example of what these profiles that we're talking about within the context of the directory, what those will look like, and also what the home page or the search page of the directory will look like. I know that some of you have previously been on Artlook and others of you are joining the Artlook community for the first time. So I just wanted to give you a quick little peek at what this will look like. Okay, so as you can see here, we have our new Artlook Sacramento homepage. We'll go over this a little bit later, but you'll see that there are apply buttons at the top of the screen here for both arts organizations and teaching artists. Once you've filled out your applications, and we'll go through that later and have received your approvals, you'll also be able to sign in on the homepage to your portals to update your profiles. And then we have your homepage. So this is the public facing part of the directory where anyone can go look up arts providers. And you'll see there's just a little bit of an introduction here on the page of what you can do here. And then you'll note you can search for both arts organizations or just teaching artists. There will also be a number of filters here that can be utilized for more advanced searches. So let's say schools or community sites are interested in understanding particular partner disciplines, the number of school partners that you currently have, program types. So do you offer field trips, performance workshops, online, virtual programs, out of school and or summer programs? These are just examples. Your program disciplines, what grades you serve, qualities and intended outcomes, your approaches for your programs, languages that you provide your programs in, if you provide any financial supports. You can also say if you were an arts organization, are you looking for teaching artists to join your team? And then we have also these different badges. So if someone wants to know if you're an any given child participant, for instance. Okay, so that is essentially how a community or a school site would search for a partner. They can also indicate that they just want to look up teaching artists or they just want to search for arts organizations if they click here, and then they would just press search. And a number of different community arts providers would then populate. Obviously, right now, we don't have providers in here yet because we did reset the database. So all of those previous profiles have been archived and we're starting fresh. And also the profiles offer a lot of new fields. And so we thought this was an opportune time to just start with a blank slate, more or less. But I do have some example profiles to show you here. These are not real profiles. We've just put them together just to give you a little sense of what this could look like. So the first profile that I'm navigating to here is a teaching artist profile. Once again, this is not a real profile, but you'll see there's an introductory card at the top where a teaching artist can enter their biography. They can have links to their Instagram, their resume, their artist portfolio. They can indicate an ideal wage range here. They can set badges, so they can say that they're seeking employment with arts organizations. They can also indicate that they're open to partnerships with schools, and they can indicate that they're an any given child teaching artist participant. There will also be a contact button here. A phone number will be optional for a teaching artist to include. And then in terms of the location, it'll never be the full address, just the state and zip. And then website, if they like to include that. All of these fields are also optional for teaching artists to include. If it's not included, it just won't appear here. You'll see that there's also an introductory video at the top to introduce programs. Arts organizations will also have that opportunity. There will also be a number of spotlight images from your programs. You'll be able to add descriptions and once again, really bring those programs to life. Teaching artists will also be able to associate themselves with arts organizations. So if a teaching artist works with multiple organizations, they'll be able to add those organizations as long as they're in the Artlook universe. If they're not, they can simply say, hey, arts organization, you should join Artlook so that we can be connected on there and and have a full representation of what the community looks like. Teaching artists will be able to also add in school partners that they're working with. They'll be able to list their education, their job experiences within the teaching artist field. They can also indicate skills and offerings, so approaches they provide, the arts disciplines they offer, teaching qualities and intended outcomes, the types of programs and languages, and so on and so forth. Teaching artists can also list their own independent programs that they provide. They can also add photos, licenses and certifications, also professional development. It even calculates the number of total professional development. So these are really robust profiles that really demonstrate the impact of what these individual teaching artists are doing in the field. Then we also have the arts organization profile. So I'm navigating to a new profile page now. This is an arts organization template. So you can see there would be a logo for the arts organization. They also have this contact card at the top, so they would have a primary contact. They also have some badges. They can indicate that they're looking for teaching artists. They can also indicate that they are an any given child organization participant. They can also have an intro video here. It can have corresponding text on the side as well. Spotlight images as well here. A brief data dashboard to indicate the disciplines that they offer, their school partners, the number of programs that they have. The school partners also pop up here and they can indicate what type of program they provided to that school. So even though schools don't have their own profiles, once again, arts organizations and teaching artists will still be able to list their school partners. And then arts organizations will also, similarly to teaching artists, be able to provide their programs, and they'll be able to have their associated teaching artists and even the specific program that the teaching artist is teaching for them. And they'll be able to approve those associations within their portal. So that was just a brief overview. This is not meant to be a how-to with a profile, but once again, in the deck at the end that we'll provide you with, you'll have steps on how to complete those profiles once approved. So you'll be able to come back to that at any point. So I'm going to return to our how to apply section here now. And we'll start off. And remember, if you have any questions, feel free to just jot those down along the way or in the chat. We'll come back to those. So we'll start with eligibility. So we have, to begin with, local presence. So the organization or teaching artists must be based in and delivering arts programs or resources within Sacramento. Then we have arts disciplines. You must be an organization or teaching artist that provides arts programs in at least one of the following disciplines. Dance movement, music, media arts, visual arts, theater, literary arts, multidisciplinary arts, or traditional arts. You must provide youth-focused arts programming. So applicants must provide arts education programs designed for students in pre-K through 12th grade. And that programming may take place during or after the school day. Organizations do not need to serve all grade levels, but must clearly define their student age range and delivery models via their programs. And that'll be more clear in the application. And then we have qualified instruction. Arts organizations and teaching artists must have relevant training or experience in educational and youth art settings with the capacity to deliver high quality, culturally relevant instruction. So this is not to say that you can't not have experiences, but we'd ideally like you to have some level of experience offering programs to students during the application process. And then collaborative approach, evidence of active partnership with schools, other nonprofits, and local stakeholders. And finally, shared systems. So this is less about eligibility and more about a commitment. But if approved, participants must maintain an up-to-date profile on the artlook Sacramento site and utilize the shared platform as directed to support regional coordination, transparency, and public visibility. Profiles should be updated at least once annually. Profiles will be assessed for updates, completion, and on an annual basis, and may be archived if left incomplete or not updated. So this is just part of that larger commitment to say we want this to be a meaningful resource for the sector, for schools, for community sites. And if we have a lot of profiles in there that aren't being maintained, or it's difficult, or the contact information is not up to date, and it's difficult for community sites or schools to reach out to you, then the platform no longer is an asset for the community. And so this is just really about the commitment to maintaining that for one another and for the sector overall and for students. Okay, so let's get in, now that we've covered eligibility, let's get into the how to apply part. Okay. So in getting started, you're going to, once again, navigate to sacramento.artlookmap.com. And you will note, as I mentioned earlier, that there are two different buttons at the top of the page, one for arts organizations and one for teaching artists. So those are individual applications. I don't recommend filling out both. I would recommend filling out one or the other. If you happen to be an arts organization and a teaching artist, I would just pick one, or maybe send an email to the City of Sacramento Arts and Culture team just to clarify whether or not, there's an exception, but I would try and just pick one or the other. And then just a note on application approvals here. The City of Sacramento will be accepting those applications on a rolling basis, but they'll set some specific periods of time to review and approve those applications. So the first one, review happening towards the end of May right now and probably into June. So that is sort of the window of time. I know that's a little nebulous, but kind of just think as May and June as being that key time period for filling out your applications and then for approvals. Ideally, the City of Sacramento wants those profiles up and ready when teachers and schools are going to start looking for programs in the later summer and then into the early fall. Okay. So once you click on those buttons, whether you're a teaching artist or an arts organization, you'll be taken to the application form. And there are a series of different questions here, of course. Some of them will be required and some of them won't be required. And that will be noted by the asterisks. So I have these different buckets here. I'm not going to go through every single field that needs to be filled out in each of these sections, but just noting for applications for arts organizations, there are three primary sections to the application. One is general organization information. Two is general program information, and three are the specifics about the arts programs that you provide. So I just wanted to note that in each of these sections, I've noted in this deck that some of the items will be visible on your profile if you're approved, and some of them will not be visible on the profile once approved. They're just additional information for the City of Sacramento to have to assess your applications with and the quality of your programs. Excuse me. And you'll also see noted here for the application purposes, M is for mandatory, O is for optional. Mandatory within the context of the application, you'll have to fill out that information. So you'll really want to cross-check with this deck before completing the application, just to ensure that you have everything before you get started. So I won't go through all of these fields, but just so that you know, it'll be general organization information once again, general program information, and then program details. And the same is true for teaching artists. It's going to be general teaching artist information, general program information, and then more detailed information about your specific programs. And the same thing is indicated here, whether the question is mandatory or optional, and also which pieces would be visible on the public-facing profile once approved versus not visible. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit now just about some important application considerations. So here are some technical considerations for you. So please note that you will need to complete the application all at once. You won't be able to save and return at a later time. And that is why I stress that you just want to make sure that you take a look at this deck a little bit before you go ahead and apply, just to make sure that you have all of the materials or the information that you need to successfully complete the application. Within the application, you will be able to press the back button. So within a single session, you'll be able to return, for instance, to the first pages or move forward, but you won't be able to return for a later session. Review the application questions in the spec before starting your application. Once again, that'll ensure you have all the necessary materials. And then just a couple of other quick technical notes. The address field in the applications is a bit case sensitive. So there will be instructions within the application itself on how to submit the address, but you just really want to make sure that you're following those instructions and that you're not adding any extra spaces or periods. And then many of the fields in your application will pre-populate your organization or teaching artist profile if you're approved, but not all sections. So if you are approved, and we'll talk about this again in a little bit, if you are approved, you want to be sure to check each section of your profile within your portal, and we'll go over what that means, to ensure that all of the information in your profile is complete. So those profiles that we were visiting a couple of minutes ago, we would just want to make sure that all of that information is indeed there. And that will help maximize your page and make sure that it's showing up in searches and making sure that schools and community sites can access information about what you do. And then at the end of your application, you of course just want to make sure that you press the submit application button. I know sometimes these things, you know, we think we filled it all out and we think we press submit, and then just one thing, we just miss it. So just want to make sure that you press that submit application button at the end of the form. And then if you experience any technical issues, you can reach out to artlook at cityofsacramento.org as you're filling out that application, and staff there will be glad to help you. If they're having trouble with something, they can always reach out to the Parliament team and we'll jump in and support as well. Okay, and then we have some brief recommendations for you as you're filling out your applications. So just a note on completeness. While not all application fields are required, providing as much relevant information as possible helps reviewers, in this case, the City of Sacramento, fully understand the quality and scope of your work. So we do recommend, when possible, completing the program, the general program questions or any information that's being asked, because it can help create a more complete, full picture of what you do and what your programs are. Clear descriptions, just making sure to provide concise, informative descriptions that clearly communicate your organization's mission, programs, and impact. And then you'll note before I mentioned that some of the fields will actually be pulled into your profile if you're approved. And so I've noted, if we go back for a moment here, which fields would be publicly visible. And I did that for both. So you'll want to pay just special attention to those fields marked as visible on the profile, because that's what schools and community partners will see. And you just want to make sure that those are polished, compelling, and that they're ready to be reviewed by a public audience. So yes, so that goes hand in hand with this next point here, right? Audience-focused program descriptions describe programs in a way that help educators and schools quickly understand what students experience, outcomes achieved, and how the program fits their needs. Then a note about images and media content. Um, the media and images that you include in your application, if you're approved, those will also get pulled into your public facing profiles. So you want to make sure to include strong visuals and media that reflect the quality, engagement, and effectiveness of your programs. And then robust programming. So you'll note in your application that only one program is required for submission. But we do encourage you, if you have more than one program that you offer to schools or to community sites, that you incorporate as many as possible, not only for the reviewers to have a better sense of what your programming is, but also because it's going to ease some of the work once you're approved in completing your profile, because that information will get pulled into your profile. So just making sure to, once again, be as complete as possible. And if you have more than one program, go ahead and add in ideally all the programs that you offer to schools and community sites. Okay, and then we're going to talk a little bit about approvals and next steps. So far, what we've covered is where you go to apply, right? You're going to go to that, we said, sacramento.artlookmap.com. You'll have those buttons at the top, one for arts organizations, one for teaching artists. You'll click there, go to your respective application, complete all the fields at once, just making sure that all of the information is complete. We talked about what makes a successful application. And now I'm talking about approvals and next steps. So once you apply, you'll receive a claim account email. And the claim account email is really just about setting up a password. It just triggers that within the platform. So you'll go ahead and click on that claim your account button within your email, which will take you to this setting up your password. Then you'll be able to actually log into the platform. But note that your profile won't be publicly visible until you're approved. So you'll receive a note when you log in that your account is under review. So you can go ahead and update details in your profile if you'd like to, but there's a possibility it's still under review. So if you don't know that you're going to be approved yet, you may or may not want to continue to fill out the profile. But making sure to click that claim account button is important. And then finally, you'll just wait for your approval email. And this will be a different email that says that you're approved for the platform, and it'll take you to the sign-in page. And then you'll use the same password that you used when you set up your password with the claim account to sign in. So you'll just go back to that sacramento.artlookmap.org. You'll click the sign-in button. And at that point, once you've been given that approval, you'll be able to log in. And once again, if you have any issues signing in and you've received that approval email, you can reach out to the city. Just note that the claim account is not the approval email. The claim account is just for you to claim the account and set up the password. The approval email will be a separate email. Okay, so that's the flow there. Okay, and then within here, once you're approved, there's information in here about how to set up your profiles. So it brings you through the three core sections of Artlook. So we have that public directory and map that we were talking about. You saw the public profiles, but then the user portal is where you set up your actual profile. So it's where you sign in and where you have those fields on the back end to configure and customize your profile. And so these sections of the deck will bring you through how to do that and talk about how to fill out the different sections of the profile once you're approved. Some of it will be pre-populated from the application, but once again, not all of it. So I'm not going to go through all of this right now. That might be a different session at a later time, but once again, it's all here in the deck in terms of how to fill out those sections. And then there's a separate section for teaching artists. It's very similar, but slightly different also. And once again, it'll go through each section of the profile and how to fill that out on the back end. Okay, so that brings us to the end here. So we do have time for your questions, and we want to know what you're thinking and how we can be of service and help you as you go through this process. So you can either, let's see, we probably have some questions in the chat here that I'll take a look at. That might be the best way, and we can just take them in order as they appear here.
Yeah, and Courtney, I'm gonna jump in. There were some early
Great.
questions about eligibility. If you
Okay.
were not a Sacramento-based artist. And I
Okay.
just think we just want to just clarify that, we know people live where they have to live based on, their lives. But if you do programming in Sacramento and you work within Sacramento County schools or sites, then you are eligible to apply so that you don't necessarily have to show us a legal address in Sacramento. We just want to know that you're serving Sacramento County with the program. So that's the one question I did answer.
Okay. And yeah, and we can update that within the eligibility to be more clear. Okay. Thank you. Let me go back and see. Okay, so from Janine, we have, hi everyone. Question, this is only for youth programs. What about elders and adults in general?
I can jump in if you want.
Sure. Yeah, please.
We really did need to focus this program as we were starting, and Artlook has always been a program that was focused on youth and school age youth. So we, it's not to say that we might not expand it into other categories in the future, but right now we really wanted to keep the focus on arts education for youth because this is a way to serve that community. And once you start doing programs for adults in general, you can imagine it could just grow to become really difficult for schools to be finding programs which are really appropriate for them. So for the time being, definitely for youth.
Okay. And then Julie says, I'm curious if there's an application window or if it'll be rolling. So the applications will be accepted on a rolling basis, and then the city of Sacramento will have specific periods of time where they're reviewing those applications. The first set they'll be reviewing at the end of May and into June, and then I'm not sure about the other periods yet. But no, Melissa, if you wanted to add anything to that.
I mean, I think that's good. We'll be looking at them periodically. Obviously, if there becomes a critical mass of applications that are out there, certainly over the summer, we'll try to get as many as possible because, when we get towards the end of the summer and schools are looking for programs, we want to make sure that everybody is on as quickly as possible. So don't worry about it. We'd love to get the bulk of our applications in the next couple of months, but then we will be looking at them, probably monthly after that period.
Great. Does an organization need to be a nonprofit? This is from Janice. Does an organization need to be a nonprofit or work with a school as an entrepreneur? So I don't think, no, an organization does not need to be a nonprofit to be eligible. Okay. From Lisa, to confirm your organization must be in Sacramento specifically and not the county of. I think we include the county is what you said, right, Melissa? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I am not currently, Sean says, I am not currently in any given child teaching artist. Can I apply here? Yes, you can still apply. The badge feature is just an add-on in case schools specifically want to search for a teaching artist or an arts organization that are an any given child participant, but that is not a criteria to apply for the platform. Great. Javier asked if the recording would be available for attendees. Yes, it will be available. Not sure exactly where yet or when, but we'll make sure that you get that maybe as an email follow-up. Okay, some folks on the artlook page of the website. Okay. Will there be an info session for educational partners, schools, and districts in the future? Yes,
Yes.
most likely. Mhm.
Absolutely. We wanted to invite the artists here for this session and make it really specific to your needs. But once we get the profiles in and we're kind of, moving forward, we are going to heavily, heavily promote this to schools, districts, our community centers, our libraries. We are going to just do an all-out campaign and then do an information session, much like this, so they understand how to best utilize it.
Excellent. So I think that might have been Dana's question too. They were saying that it looks like a great way for organizations to make outreach to schools. How is the city planning to activate the artlook platform with the school district, and who is in charge of driving engagement? So I think
We are definitely in charge of driving engagement, but we'd also love you to basically tell people, hey, and you can find more information on my artlook page and just drive them to there. That might be a nice central location for you to send people to when they're first learning about your work. So it's going to be an all-out campaign with everybody using it.
Okay, so I think that's it in the chat. Any more questions? Okay, we got a thank you from Shira.
Yeah, you will all be hearing from us on an ongoing basis to remind you to get your application in. If you have questions, we'll happy to take your questions and support you through the whole process to make sure that you have the best application, you have the best profiles, and we are really showing out what artists are doing in Sacramento County for youth. So thank you.